This presentation will cover the Dolby Atmos Designer configuration procedure. Dolby Atmos Designer, also known as DAD, is used for configuration and calibration of the Dolby Atmos cinema processor. Initially, the room characteristics such as dimensions and shape need to be configured so that an accurate representation of the room is stored in the processor. Following room configuration, all audio system details need to be defined, including speakers, amplifiers, array and base management allocations, routing, limiting, and a few other optional settings. Proper configuration and calibration is imperative for the Dolby Atmos cinema processor to accurately render the object-based audio during playback, and DAD provides a convenient interface to accomplish this task. Having the information beforehand allows the opportunity to have the DAD configuration file prepared before arrival on site, which can expedite the installation and calibration processes. Dolby Atmos Designer software runs on Microsoft Windows 7 and 10, and Mac OS X versions 10.9, 10.10, and 10.11. VMware is not supported. Room dimensions and characteristics are entered within the Populate tab, which is the top icon among the four along the left-hand side of the DAD interface. For rectangular-shaped rooms, screen wall length is effectively the same as room width, as it is asking for a description of the length of that wall surface side to side. For cases in which the room is not rectangular, measure each wall length and enter the values in the appropriate fields. The left and right wall lengths describe the length of the room along the side wall from the rear corner to the point along the wall that aligns with the screen edge. These dimensions are effectively describing the corners of the box which Dolby Atmos will render within, so any extra distance or space behind the screen loudspeakers is irrelevant. Entering the screen dimensions for each image aspect ratio provides the Dolby Atmos cinema processor with the information necessary to assess where the proper location is for the screen loudspeakers. These measurements are entered on the Screen Wall Detail tab of the Populate tab. Use the fields on each Wall Detail tab to specify the quantity of speakers assigned to each wall. On the left and right walls Detail tab, enter the measured distance from the screen edge to the acoustic center of the first surround along the side wall. Measure the average spacing between the acoustic centers of the surround speakers along the side wall and enter that value as well. Within the fields available on the Floor and Ceiling Detail tab, enter the shape and elevation of the floor in the top entry fields based on the examples presented here. This slide presents a visual guide of what the floor elevations are referencing. Specify the shape of the ceiling, and based on the shape, provide the elevation points accordingly. Keep in mind that the values are for elevation as opposed to height above the floor, so in the case of a flat ceiling, the elevation is the same at all 3 points regardless of the floor shape. In the example presented here, because a ceiling is flat, the elevation entries would all be the same. If the floor is not flat, the elevations could be derived by subtracting the ceiling height from the ceiling elevation at the floor's lowest point, which is at the screen. Note that some math may be required to determine floor and ceiling elevations based on their shapes. Moving on to the Define tab within DAD, specify all the sound system component details. Beware that any changes to the Populate tab will result in entries from the Define tab needing to be re-entered, so confirm all Populate values before proceeding. The position of most speakers is automatically estimated by DAD when the measurements and quantities are entered. Unusual room designs may require some changes to the positional data. Individual speakers may also require location adjustment due to the architectural or structural obstructions. Base management subwoofer positions are not set automatically by DAD and therefore must be entered manually. The position is specified by X and Y coordinates. Regardless of room dimensions, all location values are normalized to a range of 0 to 1. The x-axis runs along the room width, with the left wall having an x value of 0 and the right wall having an x value of 1. Likewise, the y-axis runs along the length of the room with the screen surface having a y value of 0 and the rear wall having a y value of 1. There is also an invisible z-axis running floor to ceiling which is used to indicate speaker height, with the value of 0 being the floor and the value of 1 being the ceiling. However, this value is automatically specified as 1 for ceiling speakers and is not available for user entry. In array assignments, the speakers will be automatically grouped according to default arrays, but can be regrouped if any changes are necessary. Under speaker assignments, select the loudspeaker type, make and model, as well as the amplifier make and model for each speaker within the room. Area selection of speaker groups can simplify defining multiple speakers that are the same make and model. Map output routing to the corresponding speakers with the Routing tab. Next, associate the Bass Management subwoofers with the nearby surround speakers using the Bass Management tab. Once all room information has been accurately entered into DAD and confirmed on site, then it is time to check if calibration can be started.